We'll call the meeting to order at 6:02 PM, and we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
undivided,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty and
justice
justice
for
for
all.
all. As you work. Roll call, if we could all just give me a quick here. Matt Gifford,
Here.
Laurie Jones,
Here.
Alan Kibbe is here. Jeff Mangles,
Here.
Chris McDonald,
Here.
Mike Matthews,
Here.
Dr. John Pinto,
Here.
Chris White,
Here.
Donald Remsen.
Here.
Thank you all for being here. Do we have any public comment? He said.
All right, so if anybody has a public comment about any item on the agenda, please use the raise your hand feature at the bottom of your page, and I'll allow you to speak, in which case you would state your name, your address, and the agenda item that your comment pertains to. We have a hand raised, and I have not received any correspondence for that section of public comment. I did not receive any written comment this month.
Thank you.
And our first commenter is Glenn Prashino. So you should be allowed to talk now, and just a reminder, state your name, address, and agenda item, please.
Yes. Hello, my name is Glenn Prashino. I represent the South North Boat Club. I'm the Marina Committee Chairman, and my comment is about 26 Shorefront Park. It's the neighboring property that we've been in touch with originally by James Bajak, and then we went through a meeting in the Shellfish Commission as well. I'll just, if you don't mind, I'll just read off some of the notes we have here regarding our concern for that. And again, I'm representing the South North Boat Club. On February 8th, Mr. Bajak reached out to us regarding the proposed expansion of the neighboring property. We discussed the expansion about a week or so later with one of our attorneys, and we mentioned our concerns to him. And we asked him what the purpose of the expansion was as well. He explained to us that the primary purpose of the expansion was to accommodate larger vessels at 26 Shorefront Park, and also to access the deeper water, which is pretty much provided by the South North Boat Club. And what I've heard in the past as well is he did submit for a dredging permit, but was refused. And this seems to be, from what I understand, and you would know better than I would, is this is his second attempt to, again, gain some deep water access for the neighboring property. As well, we want to be good neighbors, without a doubt. But I'd like to mention, over the years, South North Boat Club has taken the full financial responsibility for necessary permits and approvals to ensure the safe navigation for our members. Currently, we moor 24-foot vessels on the south side of the marina, and we're concerned that the presence of a larger vessel, which it would be substantially, it's pretty big when you look at the expansion of the plans, would actually could create significant navigational challenges to us. So to address these concerns, when we were talking to Mr. Bajak, we requested that, if possible, again, to be good neighbors, if the expansion could be reduced by 4 feet off the littoral line there. And this adjustment would help preserve sufficient fairway space for our vessels to safely enter and exit our marina while maintaining clear passage for other vessels. Additionally, the South North Boat Club has talked, because that's we take a pounding at times from the south side, from the south wave, when any storm is out of the south, if you will. We do get beat up a little bit, and the fingers are only 20 feet. Actually, they're 16. But we'd like to go out to, maybe, we're thinking about it, just talking internally, but maybe extending the fingers another 4 feet or so ourselves. And that, again, we're 56 feet right now from the end of one of our fingers to the proposed expansion. So we've been thinking about this for years. We'd like to be able to tie up the 24-foot vessels a little bit better. So, that's been in discussion. We haven't provided any applications for that at all, but down the road, we were thinking about that. Again, it would just be for the safety of the marina. So we have, some concern, a lot of concern just about the expansion. One would be they're coming into our space. They're coming into the permitted dredging area of the South Norfolk Boat Club. And also the navigation danger of up to a 50-foot vessel backing right into our navigable waters and coming in and out from that direction. Because you look at it, the way that direction is, they'd have to back right up into our docks. So, and again, the expansion, I don't have it in front of me, but I think it's almost a 60-foot finger in total by the time it's done. So I just hope you would, take that into consideration before approving the application. That's all I have.
Thank you, Glenn. Any questions for Mr. Persino? Glenn, if you have written comment, you could send it to our Newark Harbor Commission email address, just for the record.
Okay, yeah, we'll definitely. I'll do that. If give us a couple days, we'll send something right over. Would be fantastic.
Yeah. Any questions for Glenn? Glenn, are you still on the line? Call.
I'll let me add him back in. I just removed that. That's all right. Okay, he's back on. Sorry about that.
You know that this project, Glenn, is on our agenda for this evening for the application review committee. So just you might want to hang on the line. It's a public meeting.
Okay, we'll do. Absolutely.
Public meeting.
Thank you.
Anyone else, Amelia? Any other hands?
We have another hand raised. We have Mr. Bajek's hand raised, actually. So Mr. Bajek, I'll give you permission to speak if you have public comment about any of the agenda items. If you are responding to the last public comment, I'm assuming that's something that would be done during that item's application, the application review committee item, for any discussion or response to the other public comment. But if you have public comment of your own, you have the ability to speak now.
Amelia, Mr. Bajek has permission to speak during his session. We are reviewing the application at 26 Shorefront Park.
Yes, he has his hand raised for public comment, so that's what I was clarifying. If it's discussion about the application, that should be done under the item, but if he has a separate public comment, his hand is raised, so I just wanted to differentiate.
I see.
Hi, this is Jim Bajek. Can you hear me?
Yes, Jim.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I was able to represent our client, when the 26 Shorefront Park item came up for your discussion. So that's the only reason I had my hand raised.
We'll be able to speak during while the application review committee is discussing that item.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Amelia, any other hands raised?
We do not have any other hands raised. There's a couple other people online, so if anybody else wants to speak during public comment, just use the raise your hand feature at the bottom of the screen. I see no more hands. I think that's it for tonight.
Amelia, we'll move forward to the acceptance of the minutes from February 26th. Lori.
Right. So everybody's received the latest draft and a few days ago. So if I could have a motion to approve the minutes from our February 26, 2025 meeting, that would be great. Thank you, Matt. A second. Thank you, Dr. Pinto. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, they are approved.
Thank you, Amelia. Thank you, Amelia. Thank you, Lori. Dr. Pinto, application review. So, application review. I think you're muted.
Yeah, thank you, Alan. Yeah, that first item that is on an agenda, which is 10 Norton Place, was sort of a misunderstanding of the jurisdiction that we have. Mr. Kibbe had sent this to me with the idea that we would review that. And if I looked at it, when I looked at it, there was some issues with regard to water involvement. But I'll just very quickly read the application because we need to move forward because we don't really have to spend too much time with this application. It's the Auto Collective proposes to develop a 137,000 square feet of an existing building on Lot 2 at Ted Norton Place up in here in East Norwalk area into a car club. And the project includes occupying the upper eastern level, adding 2 overhead doors and a ramp for vehicular access. The site access and parking will remain unchanged. The proposed improvements include building renovations, constructing a car ramp, retaining wall, grading, and adding sidewalks and curbing. Now, this is where I read into that proposal, and it says they talked about stormwater management will address water quality and flow due to a slight increase in the impervious surface using a treatment train approach to manage runoff, which involves management of runoff to reduce the suspended solids and minimize impact on Norwalk Harbor. And we are close to Norwalk Harbor, and that's why I took it to mean that we would review that with that in mind. Then Mr. Kleppen had contacted Mr. Kibbe and myself and sent a letter to us, and that he apologized for any confusion on the planning and zoning referral regarding the text amendment to this amendment to this SDL LI zoning. And what he asked us to comment on, since there's not going to be any impact on the environment, the cars are not be allowed to do any repair work or any reconstruction or anything outside that perimeter. It's only for storage only. And he says your conversation should be restricted to the new definition and whether allowing that within the SDL zone will have any impact on the harbor. Considering these are high-end collectible cars and within a secure facility, there should be no off-site impacts to anyone. And what they indicated as far as the term is that they're planning to use is that a membership-based organization, this is what they wanted to include in the planning and zoning redefinition of that was proposed. A membership-based organization where classic, vintage, and other passenger motor vehicles are stored and displayed inside a building, including on racks, along with necessary space for members and member-sponsored events, along with membership lounge, club space, which may include service of food and alcohol, outdoor storage, and this is apparently the caveat that outdoor storage of and repairs to vehicles shall be prohibited. So I guess there's really no major impact outside that facility. So I guess we were just asked to comment on that. Now, if Ms. Suchi, I know Ms. Suchi is here. If Ms. Suchi would like to speak to that, or what the issue is here, if there's any issue, certainly we have a few minutes to respond to that. Other than that, I see no necessary changes that we would have to make or any objections to what they propose or even the wording.
Dr. Pinto, you have more than adequately described what the proposal is. There is a text amendment pending before the Planning and Zoning Commission along with a special permit application. I have nothing else to add unless members of the Harbor Management Commission have any questions about the proposal, but you more than adequately describe what the intent is.
Yeah, so again, perhaps the comment that we could make is that we have no objection to the wording, providing that, again, the outdoor storage and of repairs and any repair of the vehicle shall be prohibited. Under those circumstances, I said should have no objection to having that application moving forward, or the wording as encoded.
Future applications for compliance with this.
Well, I know that's well, I'm sure any future applications, any future applications that are involved in this, that we would certainly have a right to review that.
Yeah.
What's going on here is that that use of a car club or that sort of facility is being added to the definition of different kinds of property or zoning uses in Norwalk. So that's really what's happening here.
Now, if they plan to change that, that ruling where they have, I guess they have might require some additional repairs and an application be put forward, that we certainly have the right to review that application in its
Review an
entirety.
application that's submitted for compliance with this once it's changed.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, currently motor vehicle storage is allowed in the SDLI zone, but it really wasn't clear if that encompassed car clubs of this nature where you could just bring your vehicle and store it there for a period of time and then have other space available as a club member. So we decided that it would be best to craft language that defines what a car club is, what you can and can't do. And there is, as part of the application, absolutely no intention to store any of these vehicles outside. They're more on the high end, maybe classic, luxury, vintage cars and others. But the storage of vehicles is allowed, but the type of use wasn't clearly encompassed within the existing regulation or any accessory use category. That's why this came about.
So if any commission members have any further comment on this application, maybe we can certainly make a motion to move forward. Anyone?
I make a motion to move forward.
I'll second
With, again, with
with the
the,
standard language.
Mhm.
yeah, with language with
With the
the,
stone, yes.
and with the caveat that if any future applications based on this aspect of the car club changes, involves any, I guess, any outdoor storage or any repairs, that we would have the right to review the application in its entirety. All right. All right, and would you like to have a vote on that? On all those in favor of that motion? All
I
right,
Aye.
any objections? Any abstentions? Okay, I guess that we move forward then. That, Ms. Sunshine, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Have a pleasant evening.
You too. All right, the second application that we have is 138 Water Street, which is Ishota Yacht Club, which is a pre-application permit. And what the Ishota Yacht Club is planning on doing is to replace and reconfigure a timber floating dock and timber float anchor pilings and a dredged berthing basin for improving berthing of recreational watercraft at a private yacht, a private boat club. And Mr. Hiltz is here. We did take a look at that last month, Mr. Hiltz. And again, we apologize for any misunderstanding with regard to attendance of our meeting last month, but we are here now, and you are certainly free to discuss that application. Let me see if I can get that up here. Let me see, and let me see if I can share that here. Okay. Okay. I believe. So the plan, this is, I guess, this is the existing plan
Yes, sir.
with regard to the yacht club, the
Yep.
and the existing configuration. Then the new configuration apparently is a redesign, in which I noticed here that the piers, the finger piers out here are being removed. Now, this is not part of your property or the property.
No, that dock system is the adjacent property owners, the 132 Water Street.
So we're just talking about this expansion, this area in here and in here.
Exactly. They have permits and, or pending for, reconfiguring their docks. And as part of that application, they need to obviously remove things that are.
So these two finger piers are coming out now as far as I guess the new configuration. I think one is staying.
Yeah.
And
As well as the extension of the, I guess, T-float
yeah,
into the area behind Ishota. And Ishota has a lease agreement with 132 Water Street that DEP's aware of, and they renegotiated on an annual basis. And basically that, that's continuing along the line, but the floating docks at 132 will be reconfigured. At Ishota itself, the membership, is, taking stock of what they have. They provided me with a kind of a rough layout initially. I, drew it in to their survey. It didn't really do, it didn't comply with a lot of things as well as it could. So we arrived at what the proposed is now, which is, an improvement over existing situation as well as their initial
So this is
stab at it, I guess is the
now
best
the
way.
proposed
Yep.
plans you have here,
Yep.
in which that area is certainly removed here, and now a confined dockings to this area right in here, adjacent to the Rex Marine area here.
Exactly.
And then your gangway plant, the approach is in this direction here.
Yep.
The question two is, I see you have, now this is an area that involves, again, somewhat similarity with regard to the closeness of the riparian
Mhm.
rights here, as far as the encroachment here. You have a 13
Right.
foot back here, 13 foot from the finger pier piling here, right here.
But John, it's
Yep.
more than what it is now.
Yeah.
And the existing condition has been there for a long time.
Yeah, this one here. The question became came in last month when we sort of took a brief look at that, was the adjacentness, to the Rex.
Correct. Right. Yeah, and we fully anticipate, having to, seek forgiveness from Rex for whatever we do at this location. Obviously, the proposed over the existing, increases the setback from the extension of the side lot line. And, initial discussions between the club and Bill Jr. at Rex, he seems to be amenable to everything, but we'll obviously have to get something in writing for that.
John,
Yeah.
can you ask if the existing,
Yeah, yeah.
make sure the existing is properly permitted as it is now?
Well, this year, I hope it is. Yeah, the question came up, John, is whether the existing dockage, everything is all permitted as far as
Yes.
it's.
Yes, the only thing that's not permitted there are those fingers that are, extending from the, from the
Right,
floating dock that comes from 132.
right. This area right in here.
Exactly,
That's all being removed, right?
exactly.
But the current, or the previous, this has all been permitted here.
Yep, that's, they have a long history of permits.
So, any commission members have any further questions they would like to add or discuss?
John, I think one of the issues that we had, John Hiltz, sorry, was one of the issues that we had was the 13-foot setback plus the 12, that's 25 feet. Do we know how large the vessels are going to be over there? So we're talking about safety and
Right, exactly, Jeff. We don't have a specific vessel length right now. I think that most of the vessels in there are 24-foot-ish, that kind of thing. So I'm not really sure what they intend to put over there on that side.
I mean, there'll be no vessels on the end over here. Is that correct?
No, the waterward face of that long T, John, that's for transient docking. They understand that they can't really park anything out there, nor do they intend to.
yeah, so it's the south side that's of concern.
And again, we're gonna, go to Rex and check with them and hopefully get something in writing. I was understanding that they don't have an issue with it. And having done permitting over at Rex as well, that whole area is, I don't know if you're familiar with that side, Jeff, but if you're there at low tide, that area immediately adjacent to kind of the upland of the Ashoda, that's all shoal, either shoal or entirely exposed even at most tides. So
Yeah.
that, years ago, Rex actually looked into, via me getting permits to dredge that out and basically run a line of sheet piles down that side. They never did. So I don't know if they intend to do so now, but again, we will obtain, written forgiveness from Rex, going forward as part of the formal application.
Well, this, for the commission members, this is a pre-application
Mhm.
permit and pre-application. So again, I certainly can make a motion that we have no objection to move forward with the display the proposal that Mr. Hiltz has made. We certainly await, further conversation that you might have with regard to the Rex Marina. But again, as we normally indicate, that we reserve the right to review the full application in its entirety when it moves forward to us.
I'd also add, John, that we recognize it's not compliant with the existing setback policy, but there's a compelling reason to allow that. It doesn't set a precedent for other properties, but it's a greater setback from the adjoining littoral area than currently exists, and the current docks are properly permitted. So
Yeah,
recognize, but it's not to set a precedent for, reducing that setback in other locations. And also,
no,
we want to ensure that the requested statement from the adjoining property owner is included with the application to deep. But otherwise,
definitely, Jeff. Yeah, yeah.
Because again, we go by the Army Corps standard of 25 feet, from any.
Well, actually, John, because I think it's, the channel here is 12, 12, it would actually be 36 feet for structures. So as a result of the encroachment, it's a section 408 application to the Army in addition, to everything else.
Well,
I was thinking
about
about
the T, the T
side,
cross the T.
side setback, John.
Okay. Oh, yeah, no, Jeff, I understand. Yeah, there's that aspect too. Yeah.
13 feet. There's 13 feet there, John, Yeah.
We have no objection with the understanding that the existing structure is properly permitted and has been there for a long time.
Right.
That the proposed setback is increased.
Gotcha. Okay, very good, Jeff. Understood.
I think, that's this is the existing.
Yeah, if you look at the aerial, go up. You'll see that,
Right.
it's fine. You're gonna be fine. In my opinion.
All right. So anyone would like to make a motion to that regard regarding this pre-application that we had already talked about?
I'll make a motion, John, with that standard language and especially with that comment, Jeff. That was the only thing I wanted to ask as well. So I appreciate you bringing that up, but.
All right.
And I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any abstentions? Any noes? So moved, and we will move forward with that. And again, John, thank you very much. And again, I apologize for our little slight misunderstanding last month.
No, don't worry, John. Steve's commission needed to get comments into it, so you didn't hold anybody up or anything like that. No worries.
And thank you very much. John.
Yeah. All right, great.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Have a good evening.
The last application is so move this here. Not so. Let me just get out here. Is that 26? So I close this off here. Wait, just one minute. Let me stop sharing. How do I stop sharing? Here, stop sharing. Okay. Is that 26 Shorefront Park? The original proposal involved dredging the owner's dock and access way to provide deeper water for the applicant. And after consulting with Connecticut Deep, the applicant decided that a non-dredge solution would be more appropriate for them to meet their needs. The revised plan proposes lengthening an existing finger float parallel to the shore. And let me see if I can get that up here. That's close that off. Close that off. And let me see if I can share this here. Share that there. Share. Okay. So the previous application was involving this area here. This is the South North Boat Club that was talked about earlier in the evening. This is the current dockage that they had proposed here. The dredging was taking place in this area right here. But based on that, in lieu of dredging, they decided to, and again, I'll have Mr. Bajek chime in, to extend this dock here, have the vessel, I'm not sure about the size of this vessel, sort of juxtaposed it right up to abutting the littoral boundary line here. And with the idea that I'm not sure why this was originally planned, but apparently this plank, this area right here is coming out, as I understand, for reasons to decrease the overall surface area of this dock area here.
To meet deep requirements, John.
To meet, that was deep requirement, the square footage, that was it? Okay. So that was their proposal. So the applicant's modified plans, which are dated October 4th, 2024, proposes to add a 3 by 20-foot float extension, which is in here, and move one existing piling and add another piling to secure the extension. So it'll be here and here, this area here. And then in response to Deep's request, the proposal also includes eliminating the 2-foot by 30-foot section, which is this section here, this planked area right here, of the main dock to offset the added float area, which adjustments made to the float piling, float anchor piling. And so they have, this is on this revised sheet that they have now. There has been comment, and we heard from the South Norfolk Boat Club regarding the proximity of the docking and the dock itself and the vessel to the adjacent properties littoral boundary line, and issues therefrom with regard to potential of the any hazard in that area, using that fairway for his own need to have access to deeper waters. And I was wondering, Mr. Bajek, if you can maybe provide further light and comment to what the issues are here that we might be able to consider.
Yes, John, thanks for having me. The first thing I would like to do is clarify the purpose of this application. The owner currently owns a 24-foot powerboat, with a with an engine in the back, and currently his boat is barely floating at low tide because of the length of the finger float that he ties up at there. So the application is to extend that finger float so he can have his boat in deeper water. The application's not, I mean, he may increase the size of his boat, but that's not the application. And I don't know where the 50-foot thing came about as far as how big of a boat he might get. But in my conversations with the owner, they were thinking possibly going up in the low 30s. So that's why we showed this size boat as proposed conditions. They may not even change the size of their boat. So the main purpose of this application is to extend that finger float so he can keep his current boat moored there in deeper water. So he's not disturbing the bottom, and he's not disturbing the bottom of his boat.
Jeff,
Yeah.
Jim, I have the letter that apparently you had sent to Mr. Bardish and the Shellfish Commission with regard to a comment that you made to the members of the South Norfolk Boat Club. And it says, when the South Norfolk Boat Club inquired, he says, about the reason for the expansion, Mr. Bajek stated that it would allow the neighbor to store larger vessels on their dock while utilizing the South Norfolk Boat Club's fairway in deeper water for navigation into their slip. So apparently there may be certainly some plans on having a larger vessel for the reasons that you wanted to expand in that direction. The question is,
Are you saying there was a letter?
No, I'm sorry. There was a letter that I received a letter here from
who?
From Mr. Let's see, the letter is from Glenn Percino.
Okay.
That he said he talked to you.
He did talk. Yeah, we did talk.
Okay.
But I didn't say anything about having a 50-foot boat there.
No, that's not what I said either, nor did this comment here. Nothing about a 50-foot vessel here. All I'm reading is what expired in that letter, and that was about the reason for the expansion. Mr. Bajek stated that it would allow the neighbor to store larger vessels on their dock while utilizing the South Norfolk Boat Club's fairway in deeper water for navigation into their slip.
I did not say that to him.
Okay, well, I'm just reading from what I have here in a letter that was dated, oh boy, this is a couple of weeks ago from
Just a quick question. Do we know why they weren't able to dredge?
Yeah.
They requested and it was denied, correct?
We had opposition from the Shellfish Commission and the Bureau of Agriculture, claiming that we were going to cause harm to a natural shellfish bed there. And all of Norwalk Harbor, apparently, the areas in Norwalk Harbor that haven't been dredged in the past are apparently deemed to be natural shellfish beds, whether or not there's an abundance of shellfish there. So, but we did a benthic study of that area when we initiated the project, and we compared it to the nearby area that was dredged by the South Norwalk Boat Club. And the conclusion of that study was that the shellfish resources in the area that we were proposing to dredge were no different than the area that was dredged several times in the past by the Norwalk Boat Club. So our conclusion was that our proposed dredging, the shellfish would recruit themselves to the conditions that existed that currently exists at the site. So we then, our feeling was that the net environmental impact was not all that great. But the Shellfish Commission and the Bureau of Aquaculture felt differently. So we saw this was going to be a big battle, and we had a discussion with DEEP on site to discuss any possible alternatives to dredging. And this is the alternative that we collectively came up with as something that was agreeable.
Jeff,
If I might comment, there's more to the background of that than just mentioned. That the natural shellfish beds were designated by the Superior Court of Connecticut going back to the late 1800s. And the area of natural beds that's offshore of Shorefront Park, they have not been dredged before. And there's also long-standing policy by the DEP first and the DEEP that looks at dredging for residential boating access differently than it does for dredging for marine water-dependent uses, marinas, commercial facilities. And the concern was that if a proposal to dredge for residential purposes through this natural shellfish bed was approved, it was, maybe the impacts here are not that significant relative to a commercial dredging for the South Norwalk Boat Club, but it sets a precedent that would result in substantial cumulative impacts. And that was the concern that we all had. But right now, and historically, DEEP's approach to looks at dredging for residential boating access as significantly different than dredging for marine commerce. And the other aspect is how we treat the littoral right of access from a waterfront property owner. And the way that we've looked at this and the way that I believe it should be looked at and the way DEEP looks at it, it's not an absolute right that provides a right of access at all stages of the tide or for whatever size boat the property owner may want. It's a right of reasonable access, and it has to be balanced against the public's rights and interests, including for navigation and also for the protection of coastal resources. So there's more to it than just that it was unreasonable for DEEP not to approve a dredging project.
But
it's a settled issue at this point, right? So,
Jim, do we know why they can't go out further into the harbor, further toward the channel? Is that also going to be encroaching on those the shellfish grounds, the aforementioned shellfish grounds, as opposed to going north into the fairway of the boat club?
If they did that, they would be needing a very large pier to go out further. We did look at that, and we just saw it as, that was probably almost as, as bad as proposing to dredge because of the significant distance that we would have to go out just to get to somewhat deeper water.
Do you know if it would be an equivalent amount of distance as you're currently proposing to go north? What was the?
It would be. I'm talking. Probably, I don't know what the number is, but over 100 feet more.
Could you see the display that we have now on
No, we just see the same thing as we saw before. I mean, I'm looking at the map. Yeah, I can see that.
Is it? It's this here, right? So we're looking at, here's the proposed dockage
Yeah.
here. Talking, going this direction, right, Chris?
I was just asking if that had been proposed or explored,
Well,
as opposed to
Yeah, we did
Shallow,
look at it.
going into the boat club.
shallow, right out in this region right here. I think that's minus, I think it's 1.5 feet. Somewhere's right, yeah, right here.
And he said, and the guy says basically he's almost on the bottom, right? But he's not like resting low, or is he?
Well, you can see where
high?
he's somewhere around 1 foot of mean low water, below mean low water. Roughly speaking, along that finger now. And, you know, at an extra low tide, 1 foot, you know, could be 0.
Yeah.
Well, I
Wait.
know.
Don't we have a policy about how close we allow pier extensions to the littoral line?
Well, that was roughly the 25, according to Army Corps, roughly 25 feet. And there was an explanation for that. If you look at the Corps' permit actually policy that they have, and it says here the Corps typically requires a minimum setback from a reasonable riparian boundary of 25 feet. And this is based on the fact that a median-sized recreational vessel length is in the range of 32 feet. This is a minimum turning distance for such a vessel is 1.5 times its own length, or 48 feet, which we have rounded off, that's we, the Army Corps, to 50 feet. Each adjacent facility provides half the required turning distance, which is an equitable distribution of the resources. So that's where the 25 feet comes in. The South Norwalk Boat Club recommended that they shorten that dock by 4 feet from where it is right now. That still is well within, you know, very close proximity to the littoral property line here.
It's also a piling, right?
There's a pile, well, they
Yeah.
have to take the piling out there and put the piling in here.
So there's another property issue here that isn't shown here, is that 50 feet off of that property line is City of Norwalk right of way from the street end, not the South Norwalk Boat Club's property.
Yeah, that's the thing I was going to mention, Chris. So directly to the right of where that is one of the possible street end projects.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yes.
And there's a 50-foot right of way of it's Knapp Street or something, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, North Street.
You're talking,
Not Knapp, yeah, North Street.
let's see, I don't know if we have that.
Yeah, we show it right there. Yep.
There it is.
Yeah. So there's a 50-foot right of way, the cities, which
That
extends
doesn't,
this to
that doesn't look like 50 feet. If you scale it out,
It's 50 feet.
it doesn't scale at 50 feet though.
Well, it's not the street. The right of way is never the curb to curb. The right of way is a right of way that extends from the seawall to some point 50 feet beyond that. For not the seawall, there's the wall that Shorefront Park has built, which is shown there as the wall. So I have a property map, and I can put that up if you'd like to see that, because when we did some investigation on the street ends.
Well, if it's 50 feet of right of way, then that would extend northward of that seawall and extend very close to the South Norwalk Boat Club docks.
Yeah, one of them is within 50 feet. I just scaled it off. So they're gonna need to be aware of that with they plan any extensions of their fingers.
Well, as I have it right here, as far as the diagram here, they're 56 feet from the littoral right here.
Right. The longest one all the way to the left of where you're pointing.
Oh, yeah, at the end there, it looks like it's closer.
That's a little bit closer, but that's not their dock isn't the issue today. So you know and it's city property. It's not South Norwalk Boat Club, and so how close should they be allowed to construct a pier to that littoral property line? And it's shown the pier is shown virtually at the property line at this point.
Right.
I know DEEP has issued authorizations for dock structures to go to the littoral rights line, given certain, situations. And they've given us every indication that they would authorize, us going to that line in this case, due to what the situation is.
That doesn't mean
Yeah.
the commission can't find that what's proposed is inconsistent with the harbor management plan because of the proximity to the extended littoral property line and to the potential for conflicts between the applicant's use of that dock and the South Norfolk Boat Club's use of its permitted mooring slips.
Well,
Yeah,
it's just
that
South
would
Boat
be-
Club, they mentioned that.
But that would be my, this is a pre-submission consultation. And I think, in my opinion, the statements that commission should consider making is that as proposed, it's inconsistent with the harbor management plan because it's not consistent with the policy for setbacks. And it also presents what seems to be the clear
Potential for
potential for vessel
conflict of hazards.
conflicts.
Yeah, yeah.
The applicant can go ahead. That doesn't mean the applicant can't submit it to DEEP, but in terms of a statement by the Harbor Management Commission, and that would be my recommendation for this.
Right.
And also with the understanding that, again, the littoral right is a right of reasonable access. It's not an absolute
Absolute,
right
right.
for whatever size boat a property owner might want or for access at all stages of the tide.
I'll make that motion.
Yeah, again, Jim, has a discussion ever been made with the owner to have this up on a davit or a lift? And use
Boat lift.
boat lift?
Yeah, boat lift. That would solve everything.
Yeah.
Probably cheaper than the dock.
Well, no, it wouldn't be cheaper. Believe me, I've gotten many lift permits and they're not cheap. This is what they would like to have, and that's why we're proposing it. I'd like to talk about a couple of things that relate to the harbor management plan as to why we think we do meet the goals and objectives of the harbor management plan. Part of the plan that relates to public access to Norwalk Harbor, which is goal number 10. Says to maintain and where feasible, improve existing water access areas, including publicly owned properties and city-owned street ends for beneficial public use. Well, we're not imposing on the right of way for the city-owned street end. So we feel we meet that objective. Another objective is to ensure that opportunities for boat mooring, anchoring, and navigation within harbor waters are available to all on a fair and equitable basis, consistent with public trust doctrine and federal requirements for the use of the Norwalk Harbor Federal Navigation Project. Well, we're nowhere near the Federal Navigation Project. And we believe that there's, with our extension, and even if the Norwalk Boat Club wants to have and can get a permit for their fingers to have a 4-foot extension, there still would be a fair and equitable basis for the fairway for boating use. The distance of that fairway would be no less than what the Norwalk Boat Club has for their interior docks. There's another objective of the Harbor Management Commission that is 10.6, to protect the public's right of free navigation and use of land and water resources seaward of the mean high water line, consistent with the public trust doctrine and riparian littoral rights of waterfront property owners. We feel that our client should have free navigation within his littoral rights area.
That's within his littoral rights area, but now he's encroaching on a neighboring littoral rights area.
No, he's not, he has no, we're not proposing any structure within.
But there are setbacks, Jim. There is a motion on the floor. Chris, you made a motion.
I was seconding the motion that McDonald made, yeah.
You want to make a comment, Joe?
So I guess my comment, or question is that, based on the group that many of us are part of with the engineering team that the city of Norwalk has hired and one of their specific areas is the street end projects. And, what if they in 2 months or 3 months or a year decide that area is one of the 3, 4, 5 areas that they want to develop a street end project for more public access? What does that do if we're maxing out the littoral rights for one of those two neighbors in that exact space?
Exactly.
That's a good point.
I mean, that's kind of a question for us as a group, not really for Jim or the applicant in this case, but just kind of a 10,000-foot view when we're looking at this issue from the applicant standpoint, from the neighbor standpoint, and also from the city standpoint. What are we giving each of those 3 areas equal discussion in the overall review?
We have in the past, we've always been fairly consistent with our recommendations as far as
But-
setback and,
But the city's extended littoral area does not, is different or in addition to what the applicant's littoral area is. We're not suggesting that the city's area somehow, includes an area that the applicant has shown as their area.
No. I'm just kind of asking that question from 3 perspectives, from the applicant, from the neighbor, and from the city, so that we can understand the situation, 365.
I think it may have an effect on future expansion of the South Norfolk Boat Club's facilities towards the city's right of way. But I don't think in my opinion, affects, the decision we would make now with regard to what the applicant is proposing.
well, that's what.
The city is the abutting property owner, which is being not encroached on, but being built up to.
Right.
But what we're saying is if the motion is passed, is that what's proposed is inconsistent with the harbor management plan for the reasons that we talked about.
Yep.
When we look at the harbor management plan, we look at all the policies, and the commission balances all the policies that are involved.
And when the city puts their application together, when the South Norfolk Boat Club puts their application together, all that would have to be considered as well. Yeah. All right. We have a motion on the floor. Chris, would you like?
Chris, can you repeat your motion, please?
Well, I'm parroting what Mr. Stedman said, that it's inconsistent with the Harbor Management Act for all the various reasons he stated.
Harbor Management
Plan.
Plan.
Thank you.
The policies of the plan that concern the need for proper setbacks and between littoral owners, and also the concern about the potential for vessel conflicts. We're not saying anything about that. The applicant can still go ahead and submit the application, but at least the commission would be on record as upholding the policies of the plan.
Right. We'd have a second to that?
Chris White seconded it.
Second.
All right, moving forward. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any abstentions?
Don, I have, as I have in the past on this project, I have to recuse myself. I'm friends with the property owner there.
I see. Thank you, Mr. Kibbe. And Mr. Remsen? You abstain? Or no?
Yes, I abstain.
Abstain. So we have one abstention, one no, and we have rest. We pass. Okay. All right, so we'll move forward with that. Chris, thank you very much.
Dr. Pino, sorry, just for the record, Alan, were you an abstention or a no?
Recusal.
Recuse. I say he's recused.
Okay, so I don't think there were any no's. Just for the record, I think there were 2 abstentions,
Oh, it's 2 abstentions.
I believe.
I think it
Don
can either be
Remsen and
yes,
Al.
no, or abstention.
All right, let's say, all those in favor, yes?
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And no's? Abstention.
Alan and Don.
That 2.
Recused, I can't vote on this.
Okay. Ms. Jones, you have that already? Lori?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the one that takes the minutes, so yeah, I just wanted to clarify that for the minute taker.
Clarify. So with that.
Just to make sure that we all understand, we're voting yes, it's what Dr. Pinto, Chris mentioned. It's not consistent with the harbor management plan.
Plan and
Correct.
And we are not approving that. Is that correct?
Correct.
Very good. Thank you.
And that concludes our application review.
Thank you, Dr. Pinto. I appreciate your doing that. Chairman's report. I'll try to be brief, though. I'd like to kind of indicated we'd try to have a little bit of discussion for a change on some items here. Just in the way of news, Lori Jones and I, Secretary Jones and I, responded to a FOIA request earlier this month for the extensive sorting and contribution of emails, which keeps us on our toes, I guess. We had a discussion with a suggestion from Jeff about putting interpretive signage on the harbor, also honoring deceased members of the Harbor Commission. And when I was younger, I used to think that kind of thing was a good idea. And as I've gotten older, I'm more of a cynic than not. But I don't know how involved a commission should get in putting up signage and memorializing people, particularly because there's an ongoing maintenance cost with all that. It's a fine thing for a couple of years. Then when it has to be painted and repaired and replaced, it continually falls back on the Harbor Commission. And my feeling is that when people go beyond the call, as Harbor Commissions, we should be celebrating those events during their lifetime, so they get the kudos while they're alive and able to smile back and have a good handshake and a pat on the back, rather than putting up signs after the fact. And the fact of the signage is it has to be maintained over a long period of time, or it looks like garbage. So that's my opinion. I just thought we should have a little conversation about that, if that's something the commission wants to continue to do, or have it on part of our mission, is to do these kinds of things that are both memorials as well as interpretive signage. When I think of interpretive signage, I think of a series of 12 signs, or 20 or 50 or 10 that have a theme, and they're distributed around an area, and they have pictures about the history or informational. That's a big undertaking, and we're talking about here, I think, about one, as Jeff said, we're talking about one sign. And I don't know, I think it's something that becomes a burden for us over time. The maintenance will fall to us, and if it's not maintained and looks like hell, the city will pull it out and throw it away anyway. So it's just not a great situation in that regard. And if anybody'd like to speak to that, I'd be happy to chat. That's my feeling, that we shouldn't be investing our money, the little money we have to invest in that fashion. So the floor is open.
I'm not even sure what proposal we're talking about, Alan.
Last week's meeting, Jeff, do you want to just?
I just briefly, Alan, in response to Chris, there are 3 signs now at Veterans Park, and the Harbor Commission applied for a grant some years ago from the Long Island Sound Futures Fund, $9,000 to do those. And there's one on history, one on the watershed, and one on the shellfish industry in Norwalk. And what we unveiled, we had the fortunate to have a prominent graphics designer work on those. He did a lot of research, and they were unveiled at the press conference when we celebrated the completion of the dredging project. The sign that I was thinking about with respect to Tony Mobilia is a sign that we shared the expense, this separate from the Long Island Sound Future Fund, but shared the expense with the Shellfish Commission and it's down by the fishing pier at Calf Pasture Beach. And it's about shellfishing in Norwalk, and there's a little inset with John Frank. It's not, shouldn't be looked at as a memorial to John Frank. It recognizes John Frank's contribution. It has a small picture of him. And when that was dedicated, I don't know how many members of John Frank's family were in attendance, but my opinion, the benefit to the family was, you know, even if that sign, you know, was taken away later, that this family received a tremendous benefit from that. And my thought, and talking with Tony Mobilia's family, and Tony passed away at the East Norwalk Marina, is that we would do a similar sign on harbor management, on an educational topic, and it would simply have a little inset to Tony on it. And I don't know what's been involved with the maintenance of these signs now at Veterans Park, the 3 of them there. We've never had to contribute to the maintenance. And when these signs are placed in other towns, as they are, when they have to be maintained, if Public Works doesn't do it, members of the commission that prepared them goes out and wipes them down. They have a long life. But in terms of making it as a memorial, it was to be an educational display. They're called wayside signs or interpretive panels. And that was the idea, something simply that would give some pleasure or benefit to Tony Mobilia's family after all he contributed to Norwalk Harbor. That was my intention in bringing that up. And especially since if we're responsible for getting $3.5 million to redo the Veterans Park Marina, the least that we could do is that the city could accommodate is some minor display such as that. Thank you for the chance to talk about it.
Well, the same signage goes also along the shoreline, right opposite the East Norwalk Boat Club, along
The Mill Pond.
Mill Pond. Yeah, the same type of signage exists there, and those have been maintained for years. I don't think that we've expended any out-of-pocket expense. Maybe just again that one that we shared with the Shellfish Commission at Calf Pasture Beach. That was the only one, but all the other interpretive signs were all paid for by grants that we obtained.
And also, if the current commissioners are interested, we also put together a brochure, if that's the right word, a little booklet, front and back, with information on the interpretive panels at Veterans Park for people that were interested. And you know, we can share that with everybody after this meeting tonight. But there was an educational purpose involved with that, and again, the initial expenses, sure they cost more now, but 2 years ago it was $9,000, and we designed and fabricated and installed three interpretive panels.
But those were for the grant.
Yeah, through the Long Island Sound Futures Fund.
Futures Fund. Yeah. Well, I mean,
Jeff, is that panel thing you're talking about, is that up on our website, the booklet?
No, well, we can share that, and that goes back. I think that was 2014, so 11 years.
Okay.
All right, we have 1,000. I just checked the budget. We have $1,500 requisition budgeted for interpretive signs for 24-25.
What would be the cost of this sign?
Well, we can design it ourselves now, so we don't have to pay for a graphic designer. But the fabrication costs and the installation would be by Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec have done it before.
But the cost of fabrication, I'd have to check to see what it is now. But it would be more than $1,000. But we may be able to get a contribution from the Shellfish Commission. I don't know how Steve feels about that.
Well, Steve has a comment. Then go ahead.
Thanks, Chris. I mean, I can't speak for the commission at large, but I certainly would support that personally, and I would support that through the commission's funds should we vote on it. And Tony is an example to all of us. I think he was the epitome of a bipartisan worker, something that we don't have in this country anymore. And I think we'd all be better off if there were more Tonys. And Jeff's point was heard by me. Tony died there. And I just think that he's a special man. And Maybe we don't do these things in the future, but for Tony, we should. Thank you.
Laurie.
So I never knew Tony Mobilia, but I think if a commissioner has made an extraordinary contribution to Norwalk, I think that does merit some sort of memorial to them. And I think, you know, I hear what you're saying, Alan, about upkeep and stuff, but if it's a sign that has long-lasting life, like I'm hearing that our current interpretive panels do, or if it's a brass plaque that would have a long life, something like that. So it's not just every commissioner passes away, it is somebody who's made an extraordinary contribution. So as I say, I didn't know him, but I would support it if the feeling is that he is that guy.
Sorry to interrupt again, but Lori, I don't think it should be looked at as a memorial panel for Tony Mobilia. It's an interpretive educational panel on a topic of interest to the harbor with an inset to Tony.
I'm corrected. All right. Thank you, Jeff, for that clarification. That's what I intended it. Yeah, sorry about that.
It's to the Harbor Management Commission.
I mean, this could also be part of the overall marketing campaign that we've talked about or discussed, that a lot of the city has no idea what we do and what value we bring, or what, you know, we're the eyes and ears for the city in terms of these nautical related areas. And I think the more that we talk about it, the more benefit it could be. However, I also completely understand your perspective, Alan, where if we don't have something longer term planned, what happens to this? It sounds great year one, it's perfect for years 1 through 3, and then what happens after that? Do we have some type of plan that we put X amount in an account for upkeep, or is it overwhelming? Or I guess that's the discussion point, right?
Or do we have pursue a grant for, as we have for other panels? As Jeff says, it's not a memorial. It's not all, this is not about Tony. This is about another topic that happens to have Tony's name or picture or something in the corner. So it's not a memorial panel. But my concern just has to do with all those sorts of things, like the decorative panels and all that, because I do travel around a great deal, and I see a lot of those that look like crap because they're not maintained, and then the people who put them up just don't respond. I don't know if they can assume that the city is going to pick up the maintenance, or the parks and rec will do that, you know, recreation parks. I just think it's interesting topic to talk about. I don't have a terribly, you know, strong feeling, but it adds up to a lot of money, expense, and time for the harbor commissioners when there's so much else to do. And maybe I'm just a curmudgeon at heart, but
The interpretive panels, Alan, have been around for quite some time, with minimal amount of rate and maintenance that we've expended on those.
Look at the
Can I make a motion that we table this? We don't actually have a proposal to vote on. We're discussing theoreticals, and we could do that for the next half an hour. So I'm making a motion that we table this, and I encourage anybody who thinks this is a good idea to put a proposal together and bring it to the Harbor Commission for an actual vote on an actual product, to a product and message to put out there. That's.
I mean,
I'll second that motion.
Yeah, I mean,
agree.
Yeah.
Because also, I think, and Mike too, I mean, this goes along with perhaps some of the proposals that you would, for example, of an oyster trail, you know, interpretive.
Those are all things that can be proposed. I don't mean to be a dick about order here, but I mean, it's your meeting, Alan. You know, I called the vote. But
so we're all in favor? Any more discussion?
Yeah.
Opposed? Very good. So it's the end of the discussion. We'll visit this on a as needed basis as things come up, I guess. So thank you very much for that. I also asked everyone in the commission to go over the harbor management goals, give them in the plan, and we should all be aware of that those are our prime mission in conducting our work. I don't want to have a discussion about that now, but I think that's something that's important for all of us to familiarize us with ourselves with, and to see where where we should be putting our time and effort. So thank you very much for that. And with that, I will turn it over to Chairman Bartosh from the Shellfish Commission.
I gotta jump, guys. Have a good night.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So really quickly, we moved forward with standard language, the 46 Shorehaven Road project that was presented by Mr. Hiltz subsequent to a site inspection. So that moved forward without objection from the Shellfish Commission. The same with the Ishota Yacht Club that was discussed tonight at 138 Water. Again, following a site inspection, we moved that forward with standard language. We did table the 26 Shorefront Park application, one because of the vociferous objection of the neighbor, the South Norwalk Boat Club. For the record, Mr. Bajek had mentioned Norwalk Boat Club. It's SNBC for sure. Given the neighbor's objection and this commission's bigger dog in the fight, we thought it was wise to table it through tonight. But thanks for the lively discussion regarding same. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. And for those observing Meatless Fridays this season, eat Norwalk shellfish. And I yield back.
You're muted, Alan.
Any questions for Chairman Bartosh? Thank you, Chairman Bartosh.
Are permits ready, Steve?
Oh, yes, they've been on sale for some time. Fisherman's World.
Are you going to have a daily permit?
There's no discussion for that for this year, perhaps in 2026. Maybe, Jeff, if you could come to a future meeting and discuss that with the commission, maybe
Sure.
we can get some movement on it.
Sure.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, gentlemen. Harbor Master Lovallo is ill. Is Owen Lee, are you going to be speaking in the Harbor Master's behalf?
Good afternoon. Yes, I am. I'm here in his stead. I don't know if everyone knows, but the Harbor Master had a minor surgery on his knee, and he is laid up for a little bit. The only business that we had was a gentleman attempted, or he requested to put a mooring at 16 Nathaniel Hale Road at Wilson Point, and we denied it due to the fact that it would be on lot 201 that's owned by Norm Bloom. We spoke with Norm, and Norm, due to his operations in that lot, did not wish to have any gear placed there. So we're looking for a suitable location for his mooring ball and equipment at this time.
You, Officer Lee, any questions for Owen? Thank you, Owen. Appreciate it. Consultant Stedman.
Thank you, Alan. I have a number of things that I think will be of interest to the commission. First, with regard to the funding for the East Norwalk Marina, we know that hasn't been allocated yet. The next meeting of the Bond Commission is scheduled for this Friday. The agenda hasn't been posted. The January and February meetings were canceled, and we expect that this meeting will be canceled too. The Port Authority doesn't have any indication of when this might be allocated, the monies, but they're hoping that it would be allocated at the April meeting of the Bond Commission. That's April 25th. But there's nothing for us to do about that now. The Norwalk River Watershed Initiative met on March 20th. It was quite an interesting meeting. The consultant has its quality assurance, quality control plan approved by the EPA for doing this water quality work. The update of the watershed based plan is, again, because of the availability of funds, even though you might think it's a lot of money, they're only going to work on upgrading or updating the policies of the plan. And I think we have a substantial role to play in that, along with the Shellfish Commission. We provided the excerpts of the water quality policies from the Norwalk Harbor Management Plan for distribution to the consultant, the same way with the shellfish policies. We talked also about the status of the DOT's work to upgrade the intersection between Route 7 and the Merritt Parkway. Interestingly, no one seems to have a clear understanding of when that work will start. The Watershed Initiative is going to try to look into it. The Long Island Soundkeeper is also quite interested in it. And when we're thinking about updating the policies in the watershed-based plan, one policy I think that really should be considered is that when there's highway infrastructure work, there shouldn't be any direct discharges from road surfaces and bridge decks into water courses. So we don't know when the work is going to start. Also a discussion about how the plan will be used, which is interesting. And it was the initiative group with representatives from the different towns is not of the opinion that it should be used to advocate for any specific projects for or against in one of the municipalities, because that could be upsetting to the municipality that may be in favor of that project. Also, it's interesting that the only of the 7 watershed towns, only Wilton and New Canaan contribute to the watershed initiative at this time. Norwalk does not contribute funds to it. So that's a topic that I think we really are a matter or a planning process that we really need to be involved with, and we were at the start. The other thing that's interesting I wanted to mention to you, on Monday night in Stamford, there was a State of the Harbor meeting in Stamford that was held at the Soundwaters facility on the West Branch. It was very interesting. The Harbor Commission, of course, had an important role in that, but it was organized by the Soundwaters group. The Harbor Commission presented, so did the Stamford Land Use Bureau. The mayor of Stamford opened the session talking about her interest and goals for the harbor. It was a very interesting presentation by one of the principals of O&G Industries, which I found fascinating. Talking about the essential need for concrete for maintaining and building infrastructure in Fairfield County and everywhere, really. And of course, to make concrete, you need sand and you need gravel. And there's no sources in Fairfield County of that. And the sources, interestingly, and O&G has a substantial facilities in Stamford Harbor, and they did in Norwalk Harbor. And we know that they plan to open up that facility, not reestablish the asphalt plant, but to bring in aggregate. And they mentioned that the sand comes from the Ambrose Channel, which is the access to New York Harbor. And it comes from a facility in New Jersey where the sand is processed and then brought to Stamford and to Bridgeport by waterborne transport. The gravel comes from North Branford, from the Tilcon Quarry, which then is moved by a short line rail line to the Branford waterfront and then barged here. It also comes from the Hudson River. But the statistics that when opposition to the O&G facility being open for acceptance of material, there was discussion about the potential environmental impacts of barge traffic to the site. And I think that was really, should have been challenged more, because the statistics and the information that were presented on Monday night showing the environmental impacts of waterborne transport relative to truck transport was minuscule. And there was a lot of really good statistics, and also the statistics about public safety related to truck transportation versus waterborne transportation, which was quite striking. But it was a very good presentation. Don't know. I didn't get a chance to talk with the fellow about their future plans for the Norwalk facility, but the importance of those construction materials for highway work and for infrastructure work in Fairfield County, it was really quite a good presentation. Also, the Soundwaters group talked about they talked about Stamford Harbor as a learning opportunity, talking about the educational value of the harbor. Very good, and it brings to mind, before the pandemic, we had State of the Harbor meetings in Norwalk, and I think it's something we should probably consider again in the future. Just bear with me. There was a couple of other things that I wanted to mention. The Manresa Island presentation, which took place after the last meeting, that was also fascinating to hear the plans, but it also raised a number of questions. And in the gymnasium afterwards, I had a chance to talk with people who asked, when are we going to get a chance to look at the plans and to comment in the review of them? And if you remember on the timeline that was shown by the proponents of all this, there was no section of the timeline for regulatory review and permitting, which is certainly part of this process. And the Harbor Commission will have a significant role in that because there are multiple approvals that are necessary. And also questions that were raised by the Bureau of Aquaculture afterwards. And I mentioned I had sat during the presentation in the auditorium with one of the principals of the new organization and suggested they hadn't done this, but that they communicate with the town of Darien. I know when I talked with the first selectman in January who hadn't heard, who was aware of the Manresa project, but the experience of Darien going through an acquisition of a waterfront property and figuring out how to make it best accessible to the public and what sort of restrictions to put on it is something I think that they could learn from. And the person said that they would contact them. But I was interested in hearing several people in the workshop, not the workshop, but the displays in the gym specifically asked, when do we get a chance when is this going to be reviewed and when will the public have a chance to participate in the review of it? Tomorrow is in Bridgeport is the 2025 Long Island Sound Summit, which is a day-long, well, 3/4 of the day anyway, conference sponsored by the Long Island Sound Coastal Watershed Network at Housatonic Community College. The Soundkeeper will be present, and there's going to be a discussion about initiatives for protecting water quality in Long Island Sound. And I think it'll be an opportunity to really to learn some stuff, and also to make talk about the accomplishments that the Harbor Commission has made, including with the Yankee Doodle Bridge project and watershed-based plan. And going back to that, at the Watershed Initiative, there was a very good presentation by Harbor Watch, and they called it 1995 to 2023, Flowing Through Time, an analysis of Fairfield County water quality data. It was actually quite interesting, encompassing Norwalk, of course. And their findings were that impervious surfaces are increasing, water temperature is increasing, but overall the water quality data is improving. And so the question is, why is that? And one of the reasons that they began in 1995, and since then there have been substantial improvements in wastewater treatment and such. And the last thing I wanted to mention, and I won't mention, is the issues we're facing with the legislative initiatives and the status of legislation affecting the harbor management commissions. That's so complex and so problematic right now. Hopefully next month we'll have more to report on that. But thank you for the time to go on about this. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Any more questions for Jeff? Anyone else? Thank you, sir. Moving right along, mooring and harbor safety, Mr. Mangles.
All righty, thank you. So our first reservation is in from Dakwa for May 23rd through May 26th. So that will be approved. It's just a mooring sailboat. The online moorings are continue to come in. There's 48 approved and 45 under review. So those are coming in, and we'll keep handling those. Transient moorings, I missed a call from Edwards Marine today. So we are in contact though, and he will be inspecting the transient moorings per our plan for the 2 years. Every 2 years, we have to get those inspected, and we will, since it's our responsibility. Managed field letters are going out if they haven't gone out already. Sprite Island has already paid their 50%, which is due by 3/31. So I'm happy to report that Sprite Island paid. Norwalk and Rowitton Yacht Clubs, they will be paying and is due 50%. That was paid last year is due by 3/31. Harbor Master Boat, as you know, was taken over to All Seasons. It had a leaking seal on the top of the fuel tank, which caused water to enter the tank. So that was repaired, as well as the hatch was repaired. Vessel is ready for action for 2025. Let's see, we are working with the Harbor Master, Recreation and Parks, and the Boy Scouts to clean up and perform work on the island. That date is April 13th at 0900 to go out to the islands with the Boy Scout who is working on his Eagle Scout ranking, and a few other people of the Boy Scouts. There's no other safety issues reported here. The drone was purchased as stated, and after I think 3 months or something, it was finally delivered, and Deputy Harbor Master Lee is in possession of the drone. That's it. Anybody have any questions?
Hey, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Chris, finance.
Plans or treasury?
Me? Did I skip something?
Lori's plans.
Finance?
recommendation.
Finance is next on the agenda.
Finance, yes. So we had a discussion with, our grant application went in front of the BET, what's that, Board of Estimating and Taxation. And they had some questions about why some of the cash flow issues, not cash flow, but like year on year, how things looked. And we had to do an explanation about how, the calendar year versus the city's fiscal year. Now the fiscal year, because it splits our revenue and expense seasons, doesn't always reflect that too well. So I think we did a good job explaining that to them. And I had to do a supplemental report showing them calendar year 22, 23, and 24, which is how we kind of do our books. What I did notice, and I didn't follow up with you, Jeff, because I think that our online mooring revenue increased significantly when we raised the price. So that went up from 10,000 to 17,000 in 22-23, and that's not the managed fields, just the online mooring, just the revenue we get directly from online mooring. But then it dropped down to $10,000 last year, and I don't know if we had significantly fewer moorings last year, or whether things were reported differently and outside the calendar year. But I don't understand why it went back down. Everything else shows the sort of $3 to $5. That's like a 66% increase. All that's reflected in the online mooring and and mostly for the managed fields. We've been consistent through that for, I don't understand why the online mooring itself dropped down in 2024. So I don't know if you have an overall accounting from them. I sort of pulled that month by month off of the report. But maybe we should dig into that a little more, Jeff, but we don't have to solve that here. Go ahead, Jeff.
There's one big item that I might want to check into. Do we know if all the construction barges renewed their permit for this year?
Mm-hmm. They
Okay.
did.
Yeah. Yes, that's good. But to follow, just before this meeting, I got a call from Jared. I forget Jared's last name. He's the CFO from the town, from the city of Norwalk. BET is having a meeting concurrent with this, and the impression he got from the questions he was getting in the response to us is that we had reduced our grant request from 20,000 to 10,000, partly because we had a lot of unexpended funds. But his sense from the board was that they were not even going to approve our $10,000 request for this year. And there was, there's a lot of uncertainty in the budget right now because nobody knows what grants are going to trickle down from the federal level. So there's a lot of uncertainty, and they don't want to overextend on anything. So I sort of said, the way I couched it to him, I'm like, if this is a 1 year tighten your belt kind of thing, then, we will be fine. But, I don't, and part of it is that we have increased our revenue by quite a bit by increasing the fees. and we requested a lot of money that we never expended. We budgeted for increasing the harbor master. We didn't do that. We budgeted for interpretive signs and education and stuff with moorings, which hasn't been expended to date. So we're holding a lot of cash, and I know we have plans to do some of that. But you know, I think I've warned on this every meeting. It's, you know, we've spoken about this. We've asked for a lot. We've earned a lot. But if we don't use it, I think my fear is they're going to take it away from us, and they already started to have done that by not giving us a grant, because we're so that's where we stand with finance.
The thing about the BET and the grant program, it's not intended to be a ongoing part of any organization's budget. It's really intended to be something that's a one-time or a short-time period of grant that you wean yourself off of as a commission or an organization. So
I don't think that's true, Alan.
That was part of the discussion we had.
Yeah, that was part of the discussion that we
That
had.
was the discussion about like the family services thing, which was meant to be, you know, getting their own grants, but I don't.
No, Chris, you weren't on that call. I mean,
that was the first. Okay,
yeah, it was the first call
with Ann Yang and all.
Chris.
That was quite a point they made. Ann Yang,
self-sufficient. I think that they said self-sufficient.
Okay, I did miss that then. Okay.
Jeff, was that from the Board of Estimates and Taxation?
BET, correct.
They wanted us to be self-sufficient. That theme has been going on.
All commissions, not just us.
Just us all.
But that theme was also recurrent probably about 15, 20 years ago. The same thing was said. And the issue is that why don't we increase the, we only had moorings, mooring fee holders they wanted to sort of, increase that to everybody who had a mooring in Norwalk, as you know, which was no problem there. But again, we only billed people who had mooring, city moorings.
Yeah, and we can only bill up to $200 per state statute. So
yeah, no.
I think we could see if there's a coalition of people from other harbors as well, that we could get some legislative action going to get that $200 cap out. I'll be short, but I have a mooring over the other side of Sound, and the rates are very, very different over there. They're not limited to $200 a mooring. They're depending on the size of the boat, and they can be more expensive. So that's something to keep in the back of our minds, I think, for the future.
Well, we learned, Alan, from getting things changed to the legislature in the state. It's almost like herding elephant. It's just about impossible. That's what we're going through right now. We're trying to change just what we have just in the harbor, just the edict that came down from the court decision, the harbor management plan, trying to get that changed. What we have to go through is just unbelievable to get something as minor as that changed. Believe me.
Secretary Jones, do you have any secretarial comments to make, or anything for Plans and Rec?
No report.
Okay, thank you very much. Chris has gone from newsletter and website.
I have a suggestion for, I guess it would fall under plans and recommendations. I'll give a tiny bit of background. We reviewed a couple applications recently. The one, I think it's South Beach, the one by Crescent Beach in Belle Isle, where the neighbors were concerned about a pier projecting out in blocking their beach walking rights. And then the other one was Shorehaven, which projected out quite far out to the mud flats. So I did a little bit of a dive on the public trust doctrine. And that's something I've heard that term around, but I don't, it's sort of it's the right that every person, the state owns the water, the state owns the land from the high water mark to the low water mark. And I think, that basic principle, Fairfield put together a very big one, because there's a lot of, and I think it was all done with the dog walkers, because there's loads of pictures of dogs on the website. And apparently the dog walkers in Fairfield love to go out on some of the beaches there. And Fairfield's very much a patchwork of public and private property. So at low tide, you can walk in front of somebody's house on the low tide, in the intertidal zone. And, I think that I think, and that has relevance to a lot of what we do. And that also made me think there's a lot of other things like, I don't always understand exactly what part of a process we're reviewing, the deep process we're reviewing things on. And I do some of this stuff professionally, and I don't know, and me and Alan are the longest serving people on the board now after John Pinto, and we've been here all of 5 years. So I know a lot of you coming into this are not coming in from a technical bureaucratic background. So I think, and I don't know whether we want to make this a task for Jeff to prepare some kind of report, or maybe we'll just discuss it a little offline. But I think especially something like the public trust doctrine, I think that definitely applied to what happened in Belle Isle. And I think that, I forget exactly what happened with that application. That didn't become part of it. But I think that is certainly something that the local people could have applied to this case, and just to a lesser degree to Shorehaven. But I think we all need a primer. We all need we all need some type of tutelage on these basic issues of rights and harbor management, and both for the new people and the newer people on the commission, and anybody that's going to join in the future. That I think we all start this kind of blind. I think a lot of people don't say anything for the first 3 or 4 or 5 years because they're just learning what all these terms mean. So that's a recommendation. Maybe I'll start an email thread about this to try to formulate this idea, because it isn't. I don't want to take up a lot of commission time trying to.
Oh, Chris.
Looks like you had your hand up there.
Yeah.
Mr. Sedman? Jeff?
Oh, Chris, thank you for bringing that up. That's a topic that's of tremendous interest to a lot of us. And when the Connecticut Coastal Management Program was established in 1980 or thereabouts, there were several books published putting the public trust doctrine to work. It's a fascinating topic. And, it goes back with the King of England assumed ownership of all the underwater lands because England required shipping to function. And when the colonies became colonies, he asserted the same right. And when the colonies became states, they seceded to that right.
Yeah, it goes way back in civil law. The king's bottom is an important concept of maritime law.
No, I beg your pardon.
Yes, don't put your mooring on the king's bottom without paying him a fee.
But a number of references about this, and it's essential. It's essential to everything we do. It's a part of the foundation of all that we do. And balancing that the public's rights of access and navigation for the 3 main purposes. It's a fascinating topic. I can share some of the research with you. I will, and you'll probably cut me off, but that was a significant part of the argument in the Greenwich Beach case some years ago, when the person who was denied access riding his bicycle into Greenwich Point because he wasn't a resident, then became a lawyer and sued the town for refusing him access. And he used the argument of access to the public trust. And when the Connecticut Supreme Court ruled that a town cannot limit town properties or parks to only town residents, interestingly, they didn't buy the public trust argument. They based that decision on the right of free speech, and that public parks are areas where people can convene and speak freely. But the public trust is the public trust doctrine and the role of it in what we do is a substantial part. And I think it would be useful to include a section on that in the update to the harbor management plan. And we have plenty of papers that I've worked on and that I'm familiar with that we can pull out of.
Sure.
Look for the documents. You can probably find them online, putting the public trust doctrine to work. And they were prepared by organizations of the coastal states when the coastal management programs were developed.
My goal and what I'm proposing is not to load everything up in the harbor management plan, but to have a guide to being a harbor manager, a harbor management commissioner, that would have more specific stuff. The harbor management plan is obviously is our foundational document, But I think for new commissioners and all of us who want to get sharper on this stuff, I think,
Lori?
Yeah, and Chris, I totally agree with you. And Amelia, maybe you can speak to this because it's already, this conversation has been started about some sort of tutelage for onboarding commissioners because it's just an alphabet soup of documents, DEEP, DPW, the Connecticut Coastal Management Act. So, Amelia, I don't know where we are on that, or Alan, maybe you know, but yes, and we absolutely should have some sort of tutorial for onboarding.
The first sort of step of that, it just got canceled, but we were scheduled last Thursday to have a session with the legal department in Norwalk, really about the legal implications of what we do as city appointees and not employees. So yes, you're right. We need to do more of that. And I'm sorry that the one we had planned failed, but
Do we know, Amelia, they were supposed to be rescheduling of that. Do we know when that's supposed to be in attendance or what?
I'm so glad you asked, John. Whatever works for you guys. The law department said that in April, Monday and Wednesday evenings are best for them. And I only heard back from 2 of you that one said Wednesdays were preferable. Someone else said in the first 2 weeks of April, Monday or Wednesday would be okay. So whenever is the most convenient for the largest number of commissioners, we will get something on the books.
Well, I gave you my preference.
So if anyone else has a preference, Monday versus Wednesday, the next meeting is the 23rd of April. So I'm not sure if, Wednesday before that or after that is more convenient. If this is better over email, that's fine too, but it's nice to have you all here and get your thoughts this way too.
Well, Wednesdays are better for me if we're taking a straw poll.
Is this a general public concern or is this just us as far as the commission is concerned?
It's just for the commission. It is legally it's a meeting, so it will be open to the public. People can attend and watch. There might be a public comment section at the beginning, but it's not like the public would be involved or participating beyond that. It's really just a discussion for you as commissioners and the law department representatives.
Any other commissions be in attendance besides the Harbor Commission?
Each commission is doing it separately. So Wetlands has already done theirs. The Zoning Board of Appeals has done theirs. I believe Planning and Zoning is doing theirs next week. So a lot of commissions are just scheduling their own special meetings to do it so that the law department can focus, more specifically on what that exact commission does and their roles and responsibilities.
We're just focused on the Harbor Management Commission. I see. Okay.
why don't you put down 3 dates or 4 and just see you and just send a note to all of us and see who can attend.
Amelia, what was the date in April? On Wednesday?
They had said Mondays or Wednesdays, so just pulling up the April calendar. I think the 2nd's a little too close. I'm actually away the 9th. I don't know that I need to be there, but I would like to be as your staff. Your meeting's the 23rd, so in April, the best Wednesdays are probably the 16th and the 30th, if either of those.
It's fine.
Yep, either one. 16th, 30th, that's fine.
And what are we calling this, Amelia? This is what?
It would be a law department training, just a commissioner training. So I will suggest the 16th to the law department and I'll give them the 30th as an alternate date if they can't do that.
Good.
All right. Oh, fantastic. Thank you all so much.
Thanks, Amelia. That's great. Any new business?
Jeff, you're on new business.
I just wanted to bring up, Jeff mentioned the drone. And I just wanted to bring up that I was at a presentation by the Stanford Police Department a few weeks ago. And the Marine unit, and Sergeant Bisceglie would, I'm sure, know about this, talked about autonomous drones that they're going to operate or are operating in Stanford that respond automatically to 911 calls. So if there's a problem on the waterfront or in the water, in the harbor, the drone will immediately respond to the location of the 911 call to give the responders a picture of what they're going to. And I thought that was very interesting. But I just wanted to mention that, Jeff, because you brought up the topic of a drone. Thank you.
That comes pre-programmed in the packages? Oh, I
don't know how it works, but it's.
We need to get one.
Yeah,
I
that's
think-
not an off-the-shelf item, I don't think.
No, it's not off the
Okay,
shelf.
water
That's a
quality,
$20,000 drone. for
We don't
sure.
have a water quality person here tonight, so any new business? Motion to adjourn?
Make the motion to adjourn.
Second,
The second.
I'll
John,
second it.
all in
Hey,
favor?
Chris,
All set?
Set?
Chris, I have numbers for 23, 24. What else do you want?
That was it. That's for the online mooring. That's what I'd like to.
Just the online mooring, not managed fields.
No, those look good.
Okay,
Thank you all.
okay, great, thanks.
Have a good night. Thank you.
I'll send that to you, Chris.
Thanks, Jeff. Take a look.
Okay.